Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Geeks from the Multiverse. We are ending our October Scary Spooky series by talking about horror icons and what makes them an icon. So we are just going to get right into it. So let's get spooky. Hey, welcome back to Geeks from the Multiverse podcast. I am Mr. Grumpy Beard, and with me as always
is Captain Lestache, or Lustache is basically the right way to say it because, Matt was like, no, it's Lestache. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not that French, you fuckface. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's Lustache, people, Captain Lestache. But anyways, yes, so this week is, not really something that I've told me. I know some of you now have found out that I am not a big, kind of horror person in general and like the icons and stuff. Did I not? I mean, like I said, Matt before made me watch Chucky one night. And of course we were working overnight and I was like, and it would scare the living hell out of me because especially when we were, working and there was like hallways down the, where we were at, like it was always weird because you'd kind of like go around the corner or you go into somebody's room because you're like checking up on them and then you don't know where the fuck they're, if somebody comes out of that and just spooks the shit out of you. Like for me, it's like, that would scare the shit out of me. Matt's like, man, well, whatever. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. He's like, whatever. But anyways, no, I mean, I know for the most part, most people with horror icons, it's, it's unique in their own right. I mean, cause like, you got Jason, you got Freddy, you got Chucky, you got, I'm not going to name them all because I know there's a shit ton. There's like so many I can't.
Yeah, we'll definitely get in there. But if you are new here, you can give us a fist bump by following us, interacting with us, subscribing, and telling your friends all about our podcast. You see what I did there, John?
Yeah, man, I did see what you did there, buddy.
Yeah, a lot more brains, not so much brawn, but hey, but you can give us that fist bump. Just go into our social channels and. Like I said, following us, interacting, sending us a message, subscribing, which is kind of the big one, especially over on YouTube, subscribing to our channel over there. One of the things we do want to remind you guys that next week is the start of the contest that we are putting on. So we are going to be rewarding 3 winners every week with an amazing sticker pack just for you to basically just engage with us throughout the week.
Well, yeah, like, we mentioned before that, it doesn't have to be, I mean, like I said, it's very simple. It doesn't have, it's not over dramatic. It's not like you have to do like, oh, you're going to write a 300-word essay on why you were the best or whatever. Like, no, we're not like asking you to do all this shit. We're literally asking.
I'm going to scratch that off then.
Oh, you're just going to scratch off the essay part?
So no essays then.
Yes, correct. Yeah. No essays. We don't need essays. Well, fuck that shit. No offense. Like it's, at this point, it's just more, get us that follow, get us that.
There will be a 75-question quiz at the end.
Oh, okay. You know what? Matt and his damn like questionnaires and shit. Like, I don't know what's going on here. I'm not going to.
No, I'm just kidding. It'll be, it's very basic. You can earn points for every action that you do. And we're not asking you like, I have to go on every single day. No, you don't have to go on every single day.
No.
You can earn points for every action that you do. So if you like a post, if you comment on a post, if you share a post, if you follow us on Spotify or any of our social channels, if you subscribe to any of our social channels throughout the week, you could essentially be the winner of that week. And of course, like the more that you do, the higher chances you have at winning one of the sticker packs. I mean, that just.
Right, and not only that, I mean, you could win multiple weeks. It's not even
you could win multiple weeks.
I mean, that's just depending on who you are and if you're really into doing that, and that's okay, and that's not a big deal. Hopefully, we can get more people.
But the biggest thing is like if for those of you that will be participating, and I do see a bunch of people already like participating in this because I have seen some likes over on YouTube and some of our Facebook posts and stuff already.
Clearly, I've been slacking, so I gotta watch that now.
Once November 4th comes and, it gets towards the end of the week, just send us a message with, whatever points that you've earned and or what you've done for that week. And we're going to take those messages and calculate, what 3 people are the winners. And then we will connect with you.
More like, right.
To let you know. Yeah. We will connect with you to let you know. And then we will post, who the winners are. And, we do record ahead of time most times. So, we will say it on the episodes too, but it might be, a couple weeks out, but we will connect with you. But it's important to send us that message because some of the times, like Twitter, or X now that they call it.
Yeah.
You can no longer see likes on Twitter.
Oh,
so if you do likes on our Twitter account, we won't see those.
Fair enough.
I might not see who actually likes our videos on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. Facebook, it's easier because it shows you, but
yeah, for the most part, yeah.
But if you send us that message, that kind of confirms your entry for that week, and then we can actually message you back and kind of get your address and contact information, so we can actually send you the stickers. Because
we don't know, we're not like mind readers. We're like, yeah, that's where you live, right? Oh yeah, okay, yeah. We're good. We're not. Wait, what was that, Matt? We're not mediums, or
Yeah, I can't like fax them to you or like email stickers to you. Like I have to physically mail them to you. So the message is important so that we can contact you and be able to send those to you. But it is important. It does start next week. So
I'm going to mention this next one, Matt. So the next thing we're also going to talk about real quick is that so on November 11th, which is, of course, Veterans Day and also my anniversary, luckily enough. Whoop, whoop. So we're also going to be talking about certain topics, right? So it depends on what you guys want to vote on. So we have 3 right now. So there's going to be robots and geek culture, Ghostbusters, or The Walking Dead. So go on YouTube. Let us know what exactly you want us to talk about. There's a poll, like I said, on there. So you could just say, hey, yep. You click on it, boom, there you go. Let us know the vote. Because hopefully I would say probably by November 4th or, probably like closer to that date, we're going to have more of an idea of like, okay, well, this is what we're going to be talking about. We'll have to get like some notes together and stuff like that. But
yeah, so some context on the robots and geek culture in particular. My thought behind the actual topic itself is that, yes, we'll talk about robots and geek culture, but I think during the episode, John, we are going to draft a team of robots.
Oh, great. Okay.
To see who has the stronger team. I mean, of course, it's a debate between us, and we won't know who wins. But
because we don't know really who won. King Geek of the multiverse and shit like that. But
we will look at who we want on our own teams of If I was going to like maybe save the world, what robots would I want on my team?
Okay. The question is for that, if we were to talk about that, I'm assuming there has to be a number. Like I was thinking like 5.
So I was thinking somewhere between 3 and 5, but yes.
Okay. All right. So that's fair enough. All right. So, but again, guys, I mean, if you guys want us to talk about that, or if you want to talk about Ghostbusters or Walking Dead, hell, and there's another thing that we've already mentioned before. You could always just message us and let us know these topics as well, because that's a great idea as well.
Throw that out there. That's a brand new. I've never heard that before in my life.
I swore that I just made it up.
I did not know you can actually send a message to somebody and let them know something.
I agree with you, man. I never knew that either. Apparently, until just now.
But going on YouTube and just clicking, one of the 3 options in the poll is pretty easy. And right now, robots and geek culture and Walking Dead both have 1 vote each, so it's 50-50 right now. So you can turn the tide of what you want to hear, and this is kind of I want to do this more in the future, maybe when it comes to 2025, and what we want to do next year, and do more Twitter polls on some of the topics that we want to discuss. And if you guys actually do send us a message and say, hey, you guys should talk about this, we'll put a Twitter poll out and be like, hey, we got these 3, topics. What do you want to hear, guys? And
it's so easy. You would have decided. So that way we just basically do it. And we're like, we're just go for it.
Go right. I mean, it literally takes less than probably 30 seconds to just go there and just click it. And then you're like, hey, I can go on with the rest of my day.
Well, and not only that, if you think about it, right, if we started even doing those polls, I mean, like, so even if like all 3 of them, like we could potentially just do all 3. So like whatever is the most popular, we'll do that week. And then maybe we'll just go off of the the last two being maybe the following weeks, or maybe we just, save them for later for something else, depending on what we decide. Just an idea. I know. And before we go on, I know Matt's a little upset because we haven't talked about fantasy football in a while, but let's just say Matt's not happy about one of his players right now. And yeah, that's all I got to say, unless Matt wants to talk about that real quick.
Well, I mean, it's not that I'm not happy, because I'm happy that he's getting fed right now, but I'm not happy that, all of the experts were like, don't play him because he's probably going to be on a snap count, and, you shouldn't play him. And I was listening to advice, and after all the years of playing fucking fantasy football, I should know by now, like, to ignore all of these so-called experts because they're all full of fucking shit. Because right now he is sitting at 11.5 points, and he just did a running play for 4 yards. He's a wide receiver. Puka Nacua I'm talking about right now. Mm-hmm. He was just activated today off of IR.
Look,
hey, it is what it is. But I didn't play him just for the simple factor of him having like a limited workload.
Right.
And here he is right now. He is 4 for 5 receptions for 64 yards and 1 carry for 7 yards. That doesn't sound limited to me, John.
No, it sounds like he's putting in some work. That's what I'm hearing in that conversation.
He's putting in some work. But so we have, if you guys didn't know, right now, like, John and I are playing in 2 different leagues.
Which next year we're going to play. Me personally, I'm only going to play in 1. I'm not playing in 2. But go ahead.
We're playing in 2 different leagues. So we have already been playing in kind of my family's league, I guess you can call it. Which is the Guilan League. And in that one, my current standing is first.
I'm not even going to mention mine. Mine's probably like 6th, if I'm not mistaken.
You are currently sitting at 5th.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay, it's 5th then. But I'm not doing so hot. But anyways.
So you are tied with, I'm going to call him Manager Max and not what his team name is, because, I don't want to say that.
Fair enough.
But you guys are kind of tied at 6 and 8.
Yeah. No.
And if you're wondering, like, 6 and 8, how the fuck do you get 6 and 8? We play with a league with I guess in other leagues they call them victory points.
Yeah, it's basically like if you have the league median of points, as long as you go over that, you can get an extra win to the count that you already have done, or you could technically just get that and not win.
Which I did last week.
Right, and I didn't. Yeah. I didn't have the chance.
I lost the matchup, but I got above the league median, so I got a loss, but I got a win.
Right, and I know in our league we don't do that, and it's whatever. If you lose, you lose, and that's
right.
It. Like,
so right now in that league, I'm sitting at 12 and 2. And in our podcast league, currently the standings, your dad's in first.
Yeah, I know.
Which he's sitting at 6 and 1 pretty comfortably.
Oh yeah, I'm not even gonna go there.
And last week, I went from 4th to 2nd, but I'm also tied in 2nd with 3 people. So I'm only in 2nd because I have more points than everybody else.
Right. And that's usually what I've been seeing the last kind of few weeks is whoever has mostly the points. Then
So yeah, I'm sitting at 4 and 3, and I have 2 wins, which I'm hoping to win this week. Hopefully, my team doesn't screw me, but you are currently in 6th in that one.
Oh, I know. Again, I'm not doing so hot. I know.
But you're tied for 5th and 6th. So
yes, I know. It depends on who wins and loses. That's where basically whoever's the last, which we already know, we're not going to mention his name because he'll probably chime in at some point again. You know where you're at, and then like again with my dad being in first, like come on, like he could lose.
I mean, we're only in week 8, but I feel like fantasy football has always been really.
It's been up and down.
It's really finicky, and it's really like there's always a lot of injuries. In both leagues I've lost at least 2 of my main wide receivers.
Well, and we both talked about this, but
My bench looks more like a hospital infirmary.
Well, that too. Yes, that's usually how it's been working lately. No, but like if you think about it, both Ben and I agree with this. This year, for some reason, last year wide receivers were like, holy shit, they were creating points left and right. This year, it's the running backs. The running backs are like, holy fuck. Like you didn't expect them to get like 30, 40 points, as much as basically like a quarterback. And you're like, okay, well, no shit. Here we go. So it's weird because like I know last year I had two of the best wide receivers and it was like, oh, that's great. Now the downside is now it's like, you looked at them now, they're dog shit. They're not even close to being
and it's
doing
now. A lot of the veterans are the ones that are getting like, I mean, there's so many random like hamstring and quad injuries where now it's like, do I play this rookie or that rookie?
No, it's true. It's true because like the problem is like you don't know, like because last year even some of the rookies were phenomenal, which I was very surprised that I took that chance on it too, and I know Matt did, this year. But like this year it's kind of like, yeah, you're right. Do I play this rookie? What do I do with this quarterback? Or is he going to be good? Is he not going to be good? Is this wide receiver like? But you don't know. That's the whole thing about fantasy that I've now for me only doing this 2 times. It just sucks because like literally it's all a guessing game. You could say, hey, you know what? I'm going to play these players. I'm going to do all this stuff. I already looked at all this shit. You could say whatever you want. You could think that you're winning, and then all of a sudden, in 2 seconds, you could lose just because the player either got out or something else happened, and you're like, "What?"
Yeah, in the Guyland League, I think it was not this past week, but the week before. Rachel's matchup, my daughter Rachel.
Yes, I know.
Well, listeners don't know that.
That's true.
But in her matchup, it was Josh. I believe it was Josh Allen kneeling at the very, very tail end of that game is what caused her to lose that game, that matchup. And she lost by a .01.
That's really shitty.
It was like .61 to .60.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like you can,
and it was only because he did the victory position, which is like the quarterback kneel at the end of the game, and whenever the quarterback does that, he loses yards, so they lose points. And she was above and was projected to win, and then he did the 3 kneel downs, and it caused her to be a .01 underneath.
I'm just saying this like because that is a really shitty situation because like you never know what they're gonna do.
It really sucks. And I mean I lost against her last week, and it just sucked because my quarterback goes down, and I lost like 3 people. I think that it just was a sucky ass week.
Again, this is why next year I'm only doing our league. I can't do the multiple leagues. I got to just focus on one because I can't just go back and forth and figure out, okay, well, I got to change this player because he's questionable or, so on and so forth. But now let's actually start talking about this because I know we've been kind of going down a rabbit hole here.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Matt. I'll let you take over on this part.
Yeah. So talking about horror movie icons, like the very first thing that I wanted to figure out was, what makes a horror villain be iconic? Because it is kind of a weird thing, right? When you think about it, we don't really celebrate serial killers in real life.
Well, that's true.
I mean, some people.
Hold on. I mean,
some people do, but they're weirdos.
Well, not only that, but look at all the damn Netflix documentaries or shit like that you've been seeing now. Like, think about like.
But we're not. I'm just saying. Like, we're not like. You don't see Jeffrey Dahmer costumes or like.
I mean, you could probably reenact it, but
you probably could, and people probably do. But like, you don't. You're not out there seeing like actual serial killer costumes in real life.
No.
But like, here we are. Like, we have these horror villains that are.
I mean, I guess in a sense, the same as a serial killer in a lot of ways.
They're grotesque. They're killing people. They're doing just horrific things. Yet they're so iconic that, like, when we watch the movies, we're almost at a point where we root for them. We go to Spirit Halloween and we buy their costumes, and kids are trick or treating as Chucky.
Well, no, hold on, man. So what did I say? Hold on. So like, what did I say? What did I dress up as when I was a kid? Do you not remember what I said?
No.
It was Ghostface. I had a Ghostface mask and I had the knife and all that. Like I thought at one point I actually had the the hood and the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, but that's my point. Is like, kids are like, oh yeah, it's just a movie, but you're right. You go to stores, you buy all this stuff, and you play the part. Again, as Chucky or as Ghostface or whatever, or even again like Jason or Freddy. I mean, those two are definitely and they're been around for a long time.
But what makes them iconic? So there's kind of three things that I've kind of asked. Is it the character itself? And I think it can be like a bunch of different factors. Because when you kind of look at, the character itself, I think if the character is well developed.
Well, you're right. I think, and this is really where I know Matt and I agree. Like it really depends on what the story it's telling, right? Because like if you don't have a great story, or if you don't have something that's going to
like Thanksgiving with
if that's a dumb story, but
if the story's not like well developed and like there's not a good backstory and the character looks like a pile of shit, or if it is a pile of shit, then
you probably shouldn't watch it. But
like Rubber, it's literally a tire. Like it's not an iconic horror villain because it's literally just a tire. Like it doesn't have like a proper backstory. You don't know anything about it. Like it's just not a proper. I could say the same thing about the Nun. It's a character. Yes, you could say it's been in 3 movies, but it's just not iconic. It's not something that people really remember.
Well, and like when you move, like for example, like all the Scream movies, right? Like we were talking about Ghostface and one, like that was iconic because they've already built the story. And I mean, granted, yes, they made too many. I'm sorry, they've made too many, but they have at least kept the story and they like retwisted it. They've done other things with it, whatever.
Yeah.
But they've made it so that way, people can still follow along, and it's not like.
Well, we'll get to Ghostface in particular, but if you look at Freddy Krueger. He had a backstory, and you look at the character himself, like he was a dude.
Yeah, you're right. He was unique. Dudes.
He was unique, but he was also nothing at the time nobody had ever seen before. Like he had a glove with knives on it. His face and hands were burnt, like all weird and twisted. His skin was all like grotesque and stuff. But like all the weird one-liners that he would throw out, even though like most of us, like to this day, like I think they're hilarious. But when you look at the character and you look at who Freddy Krueger is, they're pretty fucking sick and twisted.
Oh no, I mean, but this was back in it had to be the early 80s, right? When they first started this?
I want to say like mid to late 80s, yeah.
Was it mid? I thought it was early.
I want to say like 84, 85-ish.
Well, like Nightmare on Elm Street, I thought it was like 82 or 83. I thought it was like, it was early on in the 80s. But like, but if you think about it, like, for example, right? Like, I know it's going to sound stupid, but like Will Smith literally created a song called Nightmare on Elm Street and literally was talking about Freddy Krueger.
Right.
That's how iconic. We're talking about music and other things like that. So like you're talking about a character that was based on a movie.
But you also have like, you also have 5 or 6 different movies that he was in that like it delved deeper into who he was and into his past and into the character of Freddy Krueger. So it wasn't like, it was just a one and done. Like you learned more about who he was.
Well, and also I know I'm just going to mention this one thing too, but like when you have a character that also like crosses over to other, characters and whatnot. I mean, I know we'll talk about that later, but I'm just saying like, that's how I feel like that you need to look at this too, is because if you have a longevity and you have that success factor in it and you have those memorable moments, then of course that's how I believe you're going to have that iconic character.
I think the other thing as far as character, and we'll move into, is it the actor?
It depends.
For character, I think it could also be a shock value, because when you look at, one of the more recent, I think, ones that became pretty much like an instant icon, like pretty much overnight, is Art the Clown. Now, if you're like, who the fuck is Art the Clown?
I am curious who Art the Clown is.
He is the main villain in the Terrifier movie trilogy. Like right now it's a trilogy, but there's 5 movies altogether.
Okay.
One of them is a short film. But he has such a growing cult following. You go to Spirit, there's a giant animatronic in the store that you can buy.
Oh, lovely.
There's
I wouldn't
costumes,
buy it,
there's masks, there's, memorabilia. There's things that you can buy, but he's become such a instant icon pretty much like overnight. And the only thing that I could say is it's a shock value of the movies themselves because they are so grotesque in nature of what he's doing in those movies. Like the way he's killing people is so shocking.
Well, because if you think about all the other characters in general, right, they have to have, it's almost like their signature, right? They have to have something that stands them apart from everybody else. So they have to do something a little differently, right? So like when you look at Jason and you look at Freddy and you look at how, they kill people and how and now this is just one little moment. I'm not going to go further than this, but like, I remember in one of the Jason movies that, I didn't really like it like as a whole, but I think it was just funny. It was just basically these two fucking college kids that were out in the cornfield. They're drinking beer. They're doing whatever. And then Jason's literally standing right behind one of them. And he's just like, one was like, he's laughing. He's drinking a beer. And all of a sudden you just see Jason like pick him up by his head and like legit just like turn his head 180. And I started laughing my ass off because it's the stupidest thing. But it was funny because it was just something he could do.
It's just iconic Jason. I mean, the one kill that I always like is iconic Jason. And it's one of the older movies is like there's a woman in a sleeping bag and literally zips it up, picks it up, and then slams her up against the tree. Like, it's
dumb,
Jason.
but it's
dumb.
also
It's just Jason. So the second piece to this is it the actor?
And this is where I would depend on.
I think it's less likely to be the actor unless it's a well-known or well-respected actor.
Like you're talking about like The Shining or Hannibal Lecter or something like that.
Like Jack Nicholson, Anthony Hopkins. But also, when you get into horror, there are a lot of actors or actresses that often reoccur in horror movies. They don't sometimes play the same role, but they do reoccur a lot in horror movies. Like you have Kane Hodder. He did play Jason, but he's played a lot of other roles. Tony Todd, he was Candyman, but he's played a lot of other roles. Doug Bradley, he was Pinhead. Again, he's played a lot of other roles too.
So I'm just
Bill Moseley, Sid Haig. Like there's so many. Like we could sit here for an hour and just name off these names.
I think, and this is where I'm just going to say it, right? So like when you look at like when we just talked about Jack Nicholson, Anthony Hopkins, I'm not going to lie. Some of the actors you just mentioned, unless you're into the horror genre in general, most people, I'm going to say it, aren't probably going to know those names off the top of their head. You're going to probably know Jack Nicholson and Anthony Hopkins because of all the movies they've been in.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, right. Does it make it iconic? Like, if you say Jack Nicholson, you're like, oh, The Shining.
Or Anger Management, or I don't know, something random. But yeah.
Anthony Hopkins, oh, Silence of the Lambs. Like, I know that. Like, Hannibal Lecter. Like,
the other guys?
Is it what it makes them, Anthony Perkins? Most people, if you're not really into horror movies, you won't know who that is.
You're damn right. I don't know who that is.
But if you're into, horror movies, you will know that he played Norman Bates in the original Psycho. So, some of these names, I mean, Anthony Perkins has been in more movies than Psycho. But when you're looking at Anthony Perkins, he's done 4 Psycho movies. So it's like the guy is Norman Bates. Like he's played Norman Bates. So when you have a guy like that, like granted his popularity wasn't after 1990. It was from probably 1950 to 1980. You know what I mean? Like that was like the popularity.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, when you start to look at those actors and actresses or whatever, you're not looking at who they played and all this stuff.
I think it's less likely the actor.
Well, and that's what I mean. That's why I'm saying it depends on, like, again, what kind of genre we're talking about. Because, like, when we were just talking about that, like, half those names that you literally mentioned, I was like, I don't know who the fuck they are, and I don't care to know unless I...
Doug Bradley was the iconic Pinhead. Like, he was in probably a majority of, the Hellraiser movies. Mm-hmm. Tony Todd was, I think, in the first 3... Candymans until the newer one. Kane Hodder, among others, played Jason. But Bill Moseley, like he played a character in the second Chainsaw Massacre, I think maybe the third one as well. But he has played so many other characters. Like he was in a couple of Rob Zombie movies. Like he's been in a ton of horror movies. The same thing with Sid Haig, who passed away, I want to say a few years ago now. But the dude probably has been in like 40 plus horror movies. Not all great, but
Well, he has a resume. He has someone behind him.
But the last thing is like, is it based on how many films or appearances that the character has made over the years? So I think like
Depends on the character, because like I mentioned before with Freddy and Jason, like they had a basically history at one point when they had the crossover kind of thing. Like that's what I mean. Like if they find a way to like convert the two to, like, or just in general, like if they had characters to do that, depending on what they are, I could see them, kind of having that,
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at whether the film is the film itself was a success or wasn't, but I think if there's like multiple sequels and a prequel, like you're looking at like Freddy, Halloween, Child's Play / Chucky, Leatherface, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has had a ton of them. Hellraiser, even Jaws has had multiple movies. I think you can measure the icon status of a horror villain, based on how long they've been around and how many films they've been actually featured in.
Right.
Like there was a rumor I was reading the other day that they couldn't get the rights for Pinhead to use him in Freddy versus Jason. But in the initial planning stages of Freddy versus Jason, there was a plan to use Pinhead in that movie. They just couldn't get the rights to use him in the movie, so they pretty much wrote him out of it.
Well,
I don't know where they would have put him.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know where they would have put him in there. I mean,
it sounds like they would also need another character to kind of like help, because let's say like Pinhead was with, let's say, Freddy. Wouldn't you want to have somebody with like Jason, like as maybe like a standoff? I don't know.
I know that there was another comic book that was like Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, which is like the Evil Dead. Like,
no, I know what you're talking about, but that's kind of weird to me. I mean,
it is kind of, I mean, they're in the same. Technically, they're supposed to be in the same universe. Like Jason and Evil Dead are in the same, but I don't know. That's weird. Anyways, but when we look at like why are horror villains so popular, and this is just kind of like, I guess, my personal opinion. Partly because I put the notes together, but
here we go again. But yes,
I do think that we as outside observers, because that's really what we are when we're watching these horror movies. We're outside observers. Like when we see these main characters in the stories, like we don't see we basically see them nothing more than just victims, and we're just not capable of viewing ourselves in that same way. Like that's what I believe. Like, It doesn't matter like how much we like a character or not like a character. Like I think when we go into, if you're going into watching a Friday the 13th, those motherfuckers are dying.
Well,
except maybe for like a couple of them, because like there has to be a final girl and a final dude.
Well, hold on. So right, but then what's funny is who's usually the typical victim when it comes to those, horror, villains and whatnot. Like what I mean is like who's usually like the victim of let's say Jason or Freddy or somebody like that.
But I don't think that matters.
I'm just asking.
I think when we're watching these movies, we know that most of them are going to die, and right. I think we're just waiting for that moment of when it's going to happen.
No, I know,
but I think when we're watching them, like we know, like, oh, that dude's an asshole. He's going to bite at any time. Oh, they're having sex. They're going to fucking fight it right now.
I was joking around. What I was trying to say is usually it's the blonde bimbo who usually, does something stupid. They're like, oh, what's that over there? And then, they find a way to get themselves killed. But like, no, but I was joking because I was like, it's usually that, or, I always know that they always joke around, but like, they always say, oh, the black guy, usually dies first or second or whatever. But like, I'm just joking here. But like, again, it's
unless you're LL Cool J, because I think I want to say it was a Halloween.
Really?
Halloween H2O. But I'd have to look it up, but I think there was a statistic that he was like one of the only black guys at that time in a Halloween movie who didn't actually die.
Wow, that's surprising. Because you're right. Typically, it was a joke because it was always like, oh, well, the black guy's going to die no matter what.
He didn't die in that movie.
No, that's great. No, I was just saying that it's just. But I understand what you're saying. Yes,
I think we're not capable of viewing ourselves in the same way. Because I think deep down, like subconsciously, like I said, we know a majority of them are going to die.
Right, and then
that's
usually
why we have a harder time connecting to them.
I think we connect more to the person that we find that lives, because depending on what is going on in that situation, they always have to have somebody that can tell the story.
I think what it is we don't want to be in their situation.
Well, hell no. Who the fuck wants to go against Freddy or Jason?
And that's what makes it harder, because like subconsciously, even like I think even consciously, like we don't want to be killed. We don't want to be in their situation. So that's why I think we relate more to the killer or the villain instead, so that it's not something that we would give our full power to, like the other characters in the movie. But there's also like, I think, a strength factor too, because the villains in these are often like powerful, and despite them like, you know, being evil and doing these horrible things, like they have strength, they show resiliency, and they have a drive that the other characters just don't have. Like most of the other characters are weak. Like you're saying, like the blonde bimbo, and they're like, oh, you know, there's a funny ass commercial, and I want to say it's a insurance commercial or something. But they're like looking at there's a car right in front of them, and then there's like a tool shed on the other side, and one of them's like, we should go to the car, and the kid's like, no, we should go hide in the shed over there. And they're all like, that's a good idea. And they go in the shed, and there's like a bunch of like knives and
this was racing, right? I think I saw this one, because it was like in the garage or whatever, and it was like a bunch of shit just hanging off, and you're seeing the guy going,
yeah, the killer's like literally in there, and they're all like hunched by the door, and the killer's just like looking at him. He's like, "What the fuck, guys?"
Yeah, and then he's like, "Oh wait, hey, let's go in the cemetery." It was like right at the end, right?
Yeah.
It was like, "Let's just all go to the cemetery."
Let's go to the cemetery, guys.
I did see this commercial. I love how you mentioned that, because I just saw it recently, and I was like, "Oh shit, that's kind of funny."
But that's like, you know, we're watching these characters, and you're, you know, they're like exploring. Like, we should go check out the basement. Don't go fucking check out the basement. Just fucking leave.
Listen, be like every other, and I'm going to say it, be like every other like black guy or every other brother man, and get the fuck out of that situation. Right. Like, just don't even think about it.
But when I look at that, like that's kind of what I think is like, we see the strength, we see the resiliency, but there's also like with Freddy and Chucky, there's like a comedic part of it where it's sick, it's twisted, but we kind of gravitate towards that because, one, we don't want to be weak like these other characters, and we don't want to be in their situation, and we're more afraid of the villain, but I'd rather root for the villain.
Well, yeah,
than to be in their situation.
Well, yeah, because like I said, when I mentioned that whole Jason thing, I was like, yeah, no offense, I would not want to be a fucking high school loser, you know, football guy and with his head basically twisted and go 180. No, but I'm just saying, you're right. I would rather be like, you know what, I'd rather have the strength of Jason and be able to do all that because, yeah, realistically, there's no way that you could literally turn somebody's head 180 from their body. Unless you could.
You're also not Jason, though.
Well, that's my point. That's why I'm saying there's probably a way. It's just I don't want to figure out that way personally. But
so yeah, before we dive into some horror icons, you know, there's a couple of things that, you know, with the list that we kind of compiled here, because there are a lot of horror villains. Not all are going to be mentioned for obvious reasons, because we'd be here until next week.
But we don't have that time, so no.
We looked at the most iconic characters that had multiple movies, were played by iconic actors, or were created by like one singular person like Stephen King. We're also not looking at like specific characters like Dracula or a werewolf or Frankenstein or the Mummy or Wolfman, or, you know, we're not looking at particular characters. We're looking at like the actual person or the villain himself.
I was also going to say it's more of like a franchise. You know, I'm going to say it like that because like they have to build them themselves, right? They have to have some sort of.
Well, they are characters, but a lot of them, if not most of them, are coming from a franchise. Yes.
But that's what I mean, like
Yes.
having that longevity. Yeah. Yes.
So I guess I'll take the first one.
I'm going to let you take up until the Art the Clown, because I'll kind of go around the. We'll see. We'll just keep going. Go ahead.
All right. So yeah, I guess I'll take up to Art the Clown then. So Stephen King has a lot of like horror icons. I call them icons because a lot of his stories, the villains are icons. I think maybe two of them, if not three of them, are probably what I would call an icon, which would be Pennywise.
That's a big one. Yes.
Both Tim Curry and Bill Skarsgård have played the character in movies.
And I mean, you could debate on who's better in whatever version you want. I mean, personally, me personally, Pennywise, oof. That to me, that is not a movie I'm going to watch at all. Personally, I don't think any one of them do it justice when it comes to like who's scarier, because they both, in my opinion, it's worse. I would say the '90s version, when you're looking at Tim Curry, there's not as much. Oh, see, look at you. See, you're screwing up already too, man. Don't even tell me that I
screwing it up.
Exactly. Anyways,
it was Pennywise.
Don't even fucking start. Don't even fucking start that shit, you motherfucker. Anyways,
it was Chucky.
You know what? I told you, don't you start this shit. I'll fucking get this going.
All right, so
hold on. Let me finish what I was about to say before you jump in the gun here. Is that, yes, Tim Curry's, when you look at '90s version, because the CGI and all that, there wasn't as much, if you think about it, Matt, because Tim Curry back in the day, like, it was just kind of practical. It was kind of this and that.
Yeah.
Today, with Bill Skarsgård, oh my God, man. Like it gets way out there.
I mean, yeah, it's in a whole nother level. Yeah, it's a whole nother level with what they're doing. In Pennywise, and I believe there's a show supposed to be coming out that's like
fucking course there is.
Derry or Town of Derry or something. I don't know.
Anyways, go on, because I know it's just one.
But the only other ones that I would say is Carrie and Jack Torrance. Those would be the other two, maybe iconic ones, but. Some of the other Stephen King like horror icons would be, of course, Cujo, which is the rabid dog, and Annie Wilkes from Misery, and Christine, which is the possessed car.
Lovely.
Yeah. Of course, we have Norman Bates, who was played by Anthony Perkins. He was seen in Psycho, which came out in 1960.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And then when you think about it, like, Psycho came out in 1960, and then Psycho 2 didn't come out until 1983.
23 years. How do you do that? How do you say, you know what, we're going to do a quarter of a century later, then we make the movie? Like, how does that make any sense?
It was Psycho 2, Psycho 3, and then Psycho 4 in 1990. So
at least it was in
83, 86, and 1990.
At least those were like in the same... It was like not even a 10-year difference. It was like an 8-year difference between them all. But at least that was in the same generation. Yeah. This is like a whole different generation at that point.
And of course, with Psycho and Norman Bates and that character itself was an Alfred Hitchcock. So
that's actually what I was going to ask you, because I was just about that.
That was an Alfred Hitchcock, and he was really iconic as a villain, only because like it was a real person. Like you're more dealing with like mental health and like issues with mental health with Norman Bates. Somebody who really did need help. He killed his mother and was hearing his mother's voice in his head. He kept his dead mother in the house, and like that's what he was hearing. And so he dressed up as his mother and would, it was a messed up story. And
I mean, I get it. I mean, that's how it would start. I mean, no, I wouldn't know. I love you, Mom, if you're listening, but I wouldn't keep it in the house. I'd tell you that right now, but that's just me.
Another iconic horror villain, probably one of the, most iconic on the list is Hannibal Lecter. In the movies, Silence of the Lambs, I don't know about some of I think maybe Red Dragon. He was also, Anthony Hopkins was also in. But that was played by Anthony Hopkins. Mads Mikkelsen was Hannibal Lecter in the TV series. But he was played by different people in Hannibal Rising. He was played by a couple other people.
I have no idea.
We did talk about Art the Clown, so I'm not going to go too far into that. But Art the Clown first was seen in the Ninth Circle. That's a short film that was made.
Just so I'm clear, Art the Clown, I think I've seen something. It basically looks like
The black and white.
Yeah, and he's got like it's like a circle or something. Like he's got like a long pointed nose. And he's got like this kind of razor sharp kind of teeth. And
Yeah.
like okay,
Yeah.
I think I've seen him.
Yeah, like a little dot on the tip.
Yeah,
of his
maybe that's what it was.
nose
Yeah. Okay, I just had to remember.
Yeah,
roughly.
and then he was in All Hallows Eve, and then from there, Damien Leone, who is the creator of the character, created Terrifier, and then made a second one, and then now the third one's in theaters now, which I believe is the more grotesque of all three of them.
Well, I was going to ask, are you going to go see that?
Probably not in the theaters. I'll wait till it comes out.
Oh, fair enough. Just like actually, I was going to mention. Did you know that the new Venom recently is coming out here shortly? Or actually, I already did come out.
I'll probably wait for that one too.
Oh, well, we're going to have to see it. That's all I'm going to say. Anyways, so yes, Jaws, right? So it's funny when both Matt and I mentioned this because wasn't there a...
This was like when Jaws came out.
Oh, no,
People were
scared.
legit afraid to go to the beach.
Well, no, I would be too at that point. You know, especially when you're watching basically a giant ass shark that was basically killing people while they were swimming. Well, usually they were either surfing or they were, you know, in a boat or wherever the fuck they were at the time, you know, and basically he would just come on and go, and just like basically eat them all, you know, whatever. Anyways,
we're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah, there you go. We're going to need a bigger boat. No, the thing about Jaws is that, I mean, I think Matt and I, we joked around. I think it was,
Hey,
well, yeah,
that shit right there,
right,
you know,
Hank, right in front of us. Yeah, Hank the mascot. He's basically Jaws. That's just the best way to put it.
He's doing the pose and everything.
Like, we need a bigger boat.
We need a bigger boat.
Anyways, since now we're going to talk about this again, I don't know if it was a TV show that we were watching, but it was like they were making fun of like Jaws 16. You know, it was the.
Well, that's in Back to the Future.
Was it Back to the Future, or was it something that we watched that we were talking about how they like it was like Jaws 7, Jaws 8, you know, versus blah blah blah.
Oh yeah.
I try to remember what the hell it was.
I don't remember that
because they were making a joke.
I know that they did when he went to the future in Back to the Future.
Yeah.
The movie theater had like Jaws 19 or something, and it was like a holographic thing where the shark came out and like almost ate him.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I was just, see, now I just did it. I'm sorry. You know what? Don't even start, man. No, but I mean, Jaws has been around for a long time. I mean, they basically made it like
since the 80s, yeah.
Since the 80s, but I mean, I honestly, Matt, I'm not going to be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, Jaws really was one of those, I mean, it's one of those iconic movies that has spawned. I mean, I don't think there would have been like movies like Sharknado if it wasn't for Jaws.
And no offense, Sharknado, what the hell, man? That's probably one of the dumbest.
I mean, you have movies like, you know, Shark versus, you know, Sharktopus or Shark versus like, that's a great name. It's like you have these
what the hell is this shit?
You have like some of these like stupid ass movies like Shark versus Squid, you know, Monster Squid, or you know, zombie shark versus zombie squid. You know, it's like
get the hell out of here. No, but like
out of here.
All I was going to say about Jaws is that you're right. Back in the day, at first, it was creating this mass hysteria of like, holy shit, we don't want to go to the beach because you know people are getting eaten alive in this, and if I'm not mistaken, not only because of that, they actually thought this was real. They thought this was like, I don't know if like maybe there was something about somebody was saying that it might have been like real footage or something like that, but they thought it was so realistic that people were actually getting.
I actually went on the ride.
And I did too. If you're talking about the Universal, yes. So I remember going on the original ride and the guy going, hold on. And he comes and he's like, hold on. He's like, shh. You know, he like takes a shotgun. And he's like, okay, we're going to have to run around here. No, and it's stupid. I mean, honestly, I really wish that
what a day and age we lived in, John.
I know, it was great, man. I loved it. And honestly,
it no longer exists.
now you're right. And I was like, shit, I went on it when I was, 13? Now I'm thinking to myself, like, it hasn't been around since back then. It's like, geez, man, were we really that old? I didn't think we were. Anyways, the next one, I know Matt and I, we always joke because we have talked about this one in the past.
Oh, yeah.
The leprechaun.
The leprechaun.
I'm the evil
I'm the evil leprechaun.
And where's that from, Matt? Huh? What movie?
Wayne's World. Party time. Excellent.
Anyways. So, the leprechaun, right? So this one.
Did you know, it was one of those things that kind of made me laugh because I don't think I've seen Leprechaun Origins, but Hornswoggle played the leprechaun in Leprechaun Origins.
That's funny because now, if you don't know who Hornswoggle is actually one of the dudes. He actually was in WWE a little while, a while back, but he was a little basically midget. But he played like he was supposed to dress up as a leprechaun most of the time. But yes, no, you're right. I could see that for some weird reason. Like I could see him
I
doing
can
that
see it. His name is actually Dylan Postel, which I spelled it wrong in the notes, but
it's fine.
It's fine.
No, but Warwick Davis.
You guys can't see it, but yeah, Warwick Davis, he's played so many other iconic characters.
Oh, wait. Hold on, man. Did you know? Oh, wait. He was in Harry Potter. Did you know that?
Well, before that, he was Willow. But
I'm joking, but I'm just telling you, yes, he was in Harry Potter, which I know at some point we're going to.
Yes, so there's, there's so fucking many of these movies. And this is why makes the character iconic because you have the leprechaun, you have 2, 3, 4, which is in space.
And then 5.
The greatest one.
That's the favorite one.
In the Hood. And then number 6, which is also a good one.
To the Hood.
Back to the Hood, which is like.
A follow-up.
Is In the Hood or is Back to the Hood the one with Ice-T?
Oh, no, it's In the Hood.
The Hood is
that was
Ice-T,
because he was there, yo.
And then Origins and then Leprechaun Returns.
That was the newest one, I thought. Yeah.
That's the newest one.
So I know what's funny is that, the very first Leprechaun actually had Jennifer Aniston in it back in the day when she was.
Steal me gold.
It was weird because the leprechaun, he always had these like weird quotes that he would just fucking say right before he killed someone.
And they always rhymed. Yeah.
Yeah. But the funny thing was that when he was doing it was In the Hood, he was actually rapping. I think there was a, I can't remember what scene, but like, I'm pretty sure like he was rapping to a song as he's rhyming and he's doing it. And then he's like, but I'm going to kill you, bitch. Or I don't know, something really stupid at the end. And then he's just like, goes right up to him and just, I don't know what the fuck he does. I'm pretty sure he stabs him or does whatever the fuck he does. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's one of those movies that I would say that Leprechaun, it's really dumb. It's a really dumb kind of like, character in some ways. I mean, it's funny because you're like, oh, well, leprechauns are evil, I guess evil or beings really. And, they're like, oh, well, I got to keep me gold on me, and do all that, shit. But like, I don't know. I mean, I would say as a character, I mean, it's probably like a B, I wouldn't say it's like a full A, but it's not shitty, right? But I would say it's good enough where it's not at Freddy or Jason. You know what I mean? Like it's right below that, but it's good enough where you can still remember that kind of character, even though it's kind of dumb. And then, you know what? I'm gonna let you,
so yeah, I'm gonna breeze through like the next 4 so that we can get to the longer description ones because these are the ones after the next 4 are the more iconic ones, I think. So we have Candyman. Candyman was played by Tony Todd. There was Candyman 2 was with Farewell to the Flesh, Candyman Day of the Dead, and then the remake in 2021, which I'm not a big fan of, but I mean people like it, I guess. If you're into that. But Candyman was one of those movies, it was very much like, and I'm going to mention it, it was very much like Beetlejuice, but the horror version. The actual character he was a slave, basically was like tortured and, the whole thing with bees and he was killed and, you would say his name, into a mirror, and then he would appear and then basically kill you.
Oh, lovely. So let's not do that right now, man.
And that's sort of like there was like kind of a whole, society thing with doing this like Candyman like kind of challenge in the movies, and that's kind of where the whole movie kind of started. Like if you said, I think it was 5 times. I don't think it was 3, but I think it was 5 times. So if you're like Candyman,
let's not set that there. But
you have to be in a mirror in the dark, John. Come on.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, man. I'm just saying.
But you would say it, and then you would see him behind you, and he would kill you, basically. But he's a very iconic character, Tony Todd. If you don't know who Tony Todd is, like he's just one of those. Like he has a like super super deep voice. Like he's just an iconic like actor character.
I think I know. You said he's a black guy, right? Correct.
Yeah, black guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think now I have an understanding of who he is. But yeah, I do know that kind of voice that you're talking about. But it's kind of like the Allstate guy, that very deep kind of voice, but like a little bit more darker.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I threw in the possessed Reagan, which was actually Pazuzu.
Is it Pazuzu or Pazazu? Pazuzu.
Pazuzu. That's the demon. So it's the actress was Linda Blair, although Linda Blair was only really in The Exorcist and The Exorcist 2. Pazuzu itself, which was the demon, was featured in Exorcist 3, and then Exorcist the Beginning, and Dominion, which was the prequel to The Exorcist, and when they did the TV series. But The Exorcist, I mean, we talked about that in the demon episode.
Right.
I mean, iconic character, like it's an iconic movie. Exorcist 2, not so much. I do like 3 myself. I mean, if you can skip 2, I would. I do. I don't like 2 myself, but that's just me.
Well, does it follow the story, or does it just?
I mean, it does, but I'm just not a huge fan of Exorcist 2. I like 3 myself because it follows a different book altogether.
Oh, okay.
I'm just not a fan of 2. But the possessed version of Reagan, obviously not when she's not possessed because she's just a girl, like a stupid girl. The next character is
stupid girl.
She's just a stupid little girl.
Like, how dare you call her a stupid little girl?
She's a stupid little girl until she gets possessed, and then she's iconic. Hey, how about that?
She sounds like a goddamn, probably like older man. I don't know, just weird and demonic. But anyways,
the next, I love this franchise. By the way,
I know you do. You mentioned it before.
Jigsaw / John Kramer, played by Tobin Bell. Obviously, if you've watched the Saw franchise, like,
let's play a game.
Yeah, you want to play a game?
You have 30 seconds to figure the shit out.
I think there's 10 movies in this franchise.
I think they need to stop because I think there's enough.
I think they're making another one. To be honest,
oh my god, I can't, man.
If you haven't seen the Saw franchise, it's one of those ones that really, when Saw came out, it really started the kind of grotesque movement of horror. I mean, there were grotesque movies before that, but
it's kind of its own genre.
It really started like the new age, like where it's not really scary; it's just straight gore.
Well, it was kind of like, I guess what is that called? I'm trying to remember the movie. There we go. Trying to think of it. It's not. It's got some elements, and this is just me. I know, like Final Destination was like a totally different kind of realm of the kind of that weird shit, like horror kind of thing. But like, it was kind of like that where you're not expecting, because like once you get in the room and you're strapped in, you're like, okay, well now what do I do? Well, you have to kill your best friend, or you have to do this instead. Like you have to like chop off your arm or something like that. And now, granted, I know maybe that's a dumb, kind of reference, but I just think that it was kind of one of those things that Jigsaw kind of brought it to another level where, you look at it and you're like, oh shit. Okay. So, it also kind of makes you wonder, like, for me, like, if let's say you were talking to your wife, like, so honey, if you were strapped to this chair, what would you do? And I'd be like,
But even
You know, like,
still,
what do I do in that situation?
You look at his character, John Kramer, and you're looking at like the shit that happened to him, like
Oh, you're talking about the backstory wise. Okay.
the guy bumping into his wife and what happened to his wife, and then he gets cancer, and they basically like switches chart, and they misdiagnose him, and he doesn't get the treatment that he needs in time. So now he's terminal. And so he has like kind of this like expiring time left to live. And
he has a lot of time when he has 10 fucking movies. I'm just saying.
He figures out like, hey, there are people who don't quite deserve the life they're living. I can teach them a lesson. And that's kind of the games that he's doing. So that, you're almost kind of rooting for him, even though like the things that he's doing is like really stupid and grotesque and like horrible. But you're also like, well, these people are kind of horrible too.
They are kind of assholes. So maybe they should just die.
These people have like killed people. They've stolen from people. Like they've cheated people. They've raped people. They've done all these other things. Yes, you can say like he is responsible for killing them because he's engineering all of these things.
Well, the contraptions, really, it's the contraptions. That's the piece that I think that makes him stand out from others, is because of how elaborate a lot of his stuff is. And that's where Jigsaw is one of those like pioneers of like, this is the kind of horror that you want to see like in other like films and other things like that. You want to see that ingenuity, that creativity.
His foresight into human nature just makes him iconic, because knowing like what people are going to choose and what direction they're going to be heading in is just like, it's on a whole nother level.
Well, that's what I said.
Yeah.
He, I would say, is like the new age. I'm just going to say this real quick. It's like basically like a new age Jason or Freddy, like when it comes to like popularity wise of like horror. And right. I mean, I guess if you want to say it like that, because
as far as him being Jigsaw. Yeah. So Pinhead, which was Doug Bradley, there's been many others. I think there's been like at least 3 others. More recently, they went from a male version of Pinhead to a female version.
Hey, I'm just going to say this, man.
Hey.
Is that really shocking? Or?
It's not shocking at all.
Oh, okay. Just want
But Doug Bradley, I mean, there are 11 Hellraiser movies featuring Pinhead. So just put that into context. 11 movies.
So I find
featuring Pinhead.
So why does it say featuring Pinhead? Why isn't it?
Well, because Pinhead is like, he is a demon. So Pinhead is a demon from hell, and he's basically like the leader of these Cenobites, which are kind of like lower level demons. So he leads these like Cenobites, and they're ruled by an entity called Leviathan. Now, if you're a Christian or you've read anything about the Bible, or maybe you've just watched Supernatural, I don't know, you'll know that Leviathan is a demon himself, but a higher level demon. But they're ruled by Leviathan, and the Cenobites, their whole job basically is to subject this says quarry, but basically to subject humanity to emotional and psychological terror. So their whole thing is experience and in pain and pleasure, and it's mainly pain and torture.
Right.
But themselves are being tortured with pain and psychological torture. So they put humanity through the same thing, and they do that through that little puzzle box that's in every horror, every Hellraiser movie.
So that's what I was going to ask. So like, it's kind of like Child's Play, right? So it's like, okay, yes, the movie's called Child's Play, blah, 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 but it's really Chucky, the character inside of that movie, right? Is that the same kind of thing, or is it just because the movie's called Hellraiser, but yes, the character is Pinhead. It's not the movie's called Pinhead.
Yeah, he's kind of like if you want to pretty much like consider him like a demon pope, or like a demon priest.
That's an interesting way to do it. I mean,
like something similar to that. That would be like what his role is.
No,
it's basically like there was a puzzle box that was created, and it was pretty much cursed upon its creation, and anybody who manipulates it, because it does kind of move, and it's a puzzle box. So if you manipulate it and it moves, you pretty much like awaken them. And they pretty much put you through like an emotional and psychological. I mean, you have to watch the movies because they do get kind of weird the more that you get through. And I think after the first movie is where Pinhead kind of gets to a point where, he starts as kind of an even keel character where he has he's putting people through that emotional and psychological terror, but then as each movie goes he kind of escalates even further. But Pinhead isn't one. You can look at Jason and Chucky as being like they have that comedic element, or Jason or Leatherface where they were mainly silent. Pinhead was different because he was more kind of like even keel when he was talking. Like it was more like probably more of like a priest, but more on obviously the demon side than the Christian side.
Right.
It was more menacing, where it wasn't like he was ever yelling or cursing or welcome to prime time, bitch. Like, it wasn't like Freddy like that. Like,
right.
He would talk kind of like normally, but, obviously he had kind of like a demon-ish voice. But he would just talk, and it was more creepy than anything else. And I think that's what made it. But it was also like the Cenobites were really like these creatures. Like they were all like, their skin was pulled with like chain and wire, and they were just weird and fucked up.
And this is why I wouldn't watch this shit, man. And you basically say, "Oh, just watch it." I'm like, fuck that shit. I'm not watching any other shit. But
Hellraiser is definitely not your bag. And then the next two are probably not your bag. So I'll go through those too.
No, I mean, so yeah, I mean, yes, you're going to go over them, but the one thing I'll mention was real quick, especially like these next two. So like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? So like. Unless you were living under a rock, I would feel that you don't even need to know anything about horror. That name alone, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, at least for the most people, I would say in movies in general, like you should know that title.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying. Now, Child's Play, you can hit or miss.
If you say Chucky, most people I think know who Chucky is.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
You're right. But I'm just saying, like these two, for the most part, at least the name, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then you have Chucky and stuff. You should know that because again, those are very, very like I know that they've been around a long time, and they've also made an impact on the horror kind of films in general. But go ahead.
Yeah. Obviously, we can't linger too long because we've been talking about this for a while because there are a lot of these. But so Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Obviously, there's a lot of these movies because Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Then there was a second one, Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation. There was another remake in 2003, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Beginning. Then there was a 3D, and then there was a new one in 2022, which I believe is Netflix.
Yeah, probably. They must have remastered it or something.
But, Leatherface is, mentally challenged, serial killer. He's part of a family of cannibals. He wore masks from the skins of his victims, and creators actually state that he killed out of fear from disobeying his family, particularly his older brother. And then due to the mental challenges, he was more like a baby mentally and was very loyal to his family despite how they treated him. He also didn't like strangers. So, in the very first movie, which I believe was 74, 79, somewhere around there, they're going into the house. So I would assume that if like, he had that mentality of like a toddler seeing somebody in the house, like somebody that has the mental challenge, I've worked in that field. The family themselves, from the second movie, they killed people and put them in barbecue.
Oh, lovely.
That's what they did.
That sounds like a wonderful time. Hey, you want to go for a barbecue?
They were a family of cannibals.
No, imagine
so when you see somebody coming into the house, he already has like these mental challenges. He doesn't like strangers. He's very loyal to the family and probably what they do. He's also afraid of what their reaction would be if, these people just roamed around and found something. So I would assume that instantly, like, the instant aggression would pop in right there. And that's where you see in the movie, that's exactly what happens. Like, he captures the first one, the second one goes in, captures that one, and then pretty soon, like, he's like, well, fuck this, I'm just going to go hunt the rest of them. So that's kind of where you get that whole massacre part of Texas Chainsaw.
Fair enough.
And at the end of the movie, that whole end scene where he's, it's really one of the iconic, scenes where he's spinning around with the chainsaw in his hand. That actually was improvised.
Oh.
Because the actor himself was so angry at the end of the scene.
Oh, so that was a legit, like, he was angry.
Yeah, he was legit angry at the end of the scene, so he started just spinning. Yeah.
Interesting how the actor was upset at that moment.
So your favorite, John?
Hold on. Oh, fine. I'll talk about a little bit. Okay, so, already, this is the one thing I'm going to mention real quick. Who do you voodoo, bitch? That's all. I'm just joking. It's Dead Island, if you don't know. It's a good game that Matt and I used to play.
Yeah.
But anyways, the reason why I say that is because good old Chucky, right? So he's been in Child's Play 2, Child's Play 3, The Bride of Chucky, The Seed of Chucky, The Curse of Chucky, The Cult of Chucky, and the goddamn TV show Chucky. The point is, in my opinion, there's too many goddamn Chuckies and his bride and his offspring and his fucking this and his...
Well, I mean, first, the Seed of Chucky can go fuck itself. Right there.
Nah.
But...
I'm just saying.
My favorites of all of these movies, not that I don't like Child's Play, but I think Child's Play 2, and Bride of Chucky are my top favorites. Of all of the movies that have been made thus far, those three are my favorites.
I mean, yes, I've told you what I would do to Chucky if I ever saw him, but I'll just mention this, okay? So, like, yes, so the point of this, right, for him is, of course, you have Charles Lee Ray. Okay, he's the serial killer known as the Lakeshore Strangler, and he was also into voodoo, and he worshipped a voodoo god named Damballa. Okay, and so at this point, he's basically almost getting caught by the police, and he was shot, and he ran into the toy store, which he then enchanted a voodoo spell to transfer his soul temporarily into a good guy doll. Which in the movie, yes, it was basically what Chucky looked like without the scar on his face. And said doll was later sold in a back alley to Andy's mother, which that mother was also the same mother who played in Seventh Heaven. If anyone didn't know that, I can't remember her exact name. And then yes, because Chucky, the reason why he's so iconic is yes, because of that rude, aggressive, kind of like that Freddy hilarious, kind of behavior. But it was also because you're looking at him and let's say he's sitting on a shelf somewhere. And he's just like, he's kind of like creeping, it's kind of like weird thing. And then all of a sudden, of course, he gets like a kitchen knife and he just goes, and he just like jumps the shit out of you. And it's also his like quick little banter. Like he does that with everybody. And the reason why I hate him so fucking much, just real quick, is because, I would be scared as shit if that I must say, if that motherfucker was running around, and it's like a toddler or shorter than that, and he's running after you with a knife. Yeah. I mean, the dude could do anything. He could jump on. The point is I wouldn't want him. I would never want him in my house in general. It is too much for me, and I would tell you, Matt, I would I've already told you. If you want to look it up, I'm pretty sure in the whatever episode we did before, I've already said what I would do to Chucky.
Yeah.
But we're not going to go there.
So what I thought, I mean, I actually learned this today. Charles Lee Ray, who is the serial killer in Child's Play, and that's that's who Chucky is essentially. They took the name from 3 different actual people, and I didn't actually know this.
Are we talking like serial killers wise?
Serial killers, like real people, yes. So the first one, Charles, which was Charles Manson.
Okay.
The second one, which was Lee, right?
Yeah.
So you have Henry Lee Lucas, who is the confession killer.
Oh, lovely.
And then you have Ray, who is David Parker Ray, who is the toy box killer.
Wow.
So they actually took the names of 3 different serial killers to put Charles Lee Ray together into one name. So I just actually learned that today.
Okay. Now I know the problem is we have 4 more people. Now I can say I can mention Go for Race real quick and just kind of go through that, but the last 3 I feel like we can kind of summarize. And we can kind of say, I mean, it's not like I would say if you should probably know who these people are because they're very well known in the horror community and I would say in general.
I mean, I think we can. I mean, obviously, we already said Ghostface, which is in Scream. I mean, there's been 6 Scream movies.
Yeah, of course, there's gonna be another one.
The 5th one was just named Scream.
Yes, and actually, yeah, it's just
there's a 7th one due out in 2026, apparently.
I mean, it was funny because yes, with the voice changing and of course the knife and everything else in that.
Well, I mean, I think the Scream movies in themselves, like yes, the character is. I mean, when you look at the character, I mean, it's a Halloween mask and a Halloween costume. It's not really iconic.
Well, no,
but you look at the movies themselves; they created a mystery factor that. You had to really guess on who the
killer was, and it's different each time. That was
what was different between those movies, where you kind of knew, like, okay, well, you're watching Halloween, it's going to be Michael Myers,
right?
You're watching Friday the 13th, it's going to be Jason. You're watching Nightmare on Elm Street, it's going to be Freddy. When you're watching Scream, you have no fucking idea.
No, because it could be a woman, it could be your best friend in the movie, But I found it interesting too, is that when they did. Scary movie and stuff, like they literally, I mean, granted they took a lot of people, but they really did an emphasis on the first Scream movie or the Scary movie based on this movie, so like that's what I mean about the popularity and everything else. So like when you have somebody like that and you're like basing it like I get it, a parody movie off of it, it's saying a lot. It's saying that, you like the genre, you like the franchise for what it is. Now I know the name Michael Myers and Halloween and stuff, but I don't really know a lot about that kind of realm a little bit. You know what I mean? Because I know.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Myers, I don't know if I mean, just mentioning him I think is fine. But I mean, obviously there's been,
It's just so I'm clear, this is the one where, what's her face?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was just trying to remember. So, that's okay. That's all I needed to know. I just couldn't remember if she was a part of this one or not. But
yes. I mean, there's been like 1,000 Halloween movies.
Yeah, I figured there's too many.
Halloween 1001 will be out in the summer, whatever.
It is what it is,
But there's been so many. I mean, however you feel about, Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, I personally didn't like Halloween Ends. I know that they wanted to kind of put an end to maybe the series as a whole, but like I don't particularly like how they ended the movie itself. Like I think
I'm just trying to remember, was Halloween or just the Halloween franchise, was the theme song ding 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 ding
yes.
ding ding? Okay, so that is okay. I just want to, but see, I didn't even know a lot about Michael Myers, but I knew that theme song. That is his theme. That like ding 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 ding.
And it's iconic.
You know what it is.
Michael Myers is iconic with the mask and the just the blank look. You don't know whether he's alive or dead or if he's a demon. Like he had a well developed backstory. Like he's just a great character. I mean, there's really not much else to say on Michael Myers. It's just he's a great horror icon. Like,
but like I said, like I didn't even know like a lot about the movies and stuff, but I knew literally I could tell you the theme like that, like I just said. Like if you didn't know, like now if you heard it, now you're like, oh wait, that's him. Yeah, that would make more sense because you've heard it before in some way.
Michael Myers. Oh, you mean like Austin Powers? No.
Yeah. The actual dude, you know, that is in the movie. You know, like not that guy. But anyways. Anyways, no, that's different.
So Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street. We've talked a bunch about him. I mean, I didn't realize. Welcome to primetime, bitch.
I love. I didn't realize you had the best quotes. That's funny. Kung fu this, bitch. like I didn't know we said that.
Yeah. So yeah, if you don't know anything about Freddy, basically he was a murderer. He killed children. He was like the Springwood slasher is what they called him. He was apprehended. It basically was because of a technicality, like they signed the search warrant in the wrong place or something. They had to release him. And the parents of the children that he had killed tracked him down, found him in a boiler room, and they poured gas in the room, set him on fire. And when he basically went to hell, that's when he found the dream demons and became who he ultimately became. And
that's why he terrified children in basically their sleeps.
When they're I mean, 8 movies later, he's just an iconic character.
Right, and then you got Jason, who, Friday the 13th, and, this guy, if you don't know who Jason is by now, I'm just going to say it, like, you are living under a rock.
I truly saved the better one for last because, Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th, there's part 1, 2, 3, 4, the final chapter, 6, New Blood, 7, takes Manhattan, Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, which that's the one in space.
Freddy versus
Jason, and then the remake, which was Friday the 13th, which was done in 2009. And I actually heard this today too, which is kind of funny because I've heard, I guess, a lot of things today. Horror movies like typically go like in a couple directions, where after a certain period, like when the character or the movies kind of start getting to a point where they're getting boring and dull.
Right, because there's not so much you can talk about, but yeah.
What ends up happening is the character one either goes in space or the character gets funny.
Yeah, like Leprechaun. Or, something stupid like that.
But you see this in Child's Play.
Mm-hmm.
Chucky never went to space, but he got fucking funny, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, real quick.
Freddy, he didn't go to space.
But he
got fucking funny, didn't he?
He sure fucking did.
Jason, he didn't get fucking funny, but he went to space, didn't he? Yeah. So he went to space. Freddy versus Jason. Even though the first Friday the 13th did not feature Jason as the killer, because it was his mother.
Oh, interesting.
He basically drowned as a child. In Freddy versus Jason, we learned that he was picked on due to physical deformity. And he was pushed into the lake by the other kids. There's so many different theories on Jason. It's just crazy because the director of Jason Goes to Hell actually he came out because in that movie. He put the Necronomicon and the Kadarian dagger in the movie. Mm. And he explains he's actually a Deadite, like an Evil Dead. And like I said, the Necronomicon and the Kadarian dagger are on the table in the Voorhees home. However, I don't think it's likely that that's what actually happened. One of the other things is that he's the actual the devil or the son of the devil, which was claiming that Elias Voorhees, which is Jason's real father, or it was he was the guy that was that Pamela Voorhees was married to. was not his real father, and that Pamela was actually raped by the devil or a demon, like, you know, something like The Omen.
Ah, okay.
Which is also kind of not likely, but possible, I guess. I would almost kind of say, like, is there something that maybe Crystal Lake is evil itself?
Could be.
You know, between, you know, you look at, you know, the actual camp, and most people, you know, the drinking, smoking pot, you know, most of the people that are going there, they're all having sex, like almost every single one of them. So it does seem like maybe there could have been like a curse or some kind of a darkness over Crystal Lake, and that probably seems more possible. And when he was pushed in the water and was drowning, perhaps like the water that went in, or the, you know, the evil went within him, prevented him from dying and changed him into being this like evil supernatural thing.
Well, originally I was trying to say this, is that even just looking at Jason and the way he, you know, his like the costume and everything else, like really the biggest thing is like, it's the hockey mask. Now, granted, I know it changes in certain movies and, you know, does whatever, but like, like, that's the other thing. It's like, you know, when you look at the, you know, like Freddy and a few others, like, you know, you see their face and like, you know, you see the outfit that they're wearing and you know who they are and stuff like this. But like, you know, it's kind of funny. Like when we, you know, kind of like when we're
he actually didn't have it right away. He had like a sack over his head in most of the early movies.
What I was going to say is like, you know, when he got the hockey mask and he got all that, I was saying like, it's kind of like, you know, in like, in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know how like Casey, like, you know, kind of wore a very similar mask to kind of like what Jason is like. It's kind of funny how, you know, you look at like this and like how it's, I'm not, you know, I don't know. I think it's kind of like unique in a way that it's inspired, you know, other, you know, shows and other things that have, you know, and like, you know, when you look at, you know, especially in like video games, I know, for example, Mortal Kombat a while back decided to like do Jason and Freddy and a few others. But Jason, I know in Mortal Kombat, I think it was like either 10 or 9 or whatever, which one it was, but they did a really good job on him because, I mean, granted, yeah, of course he doesn't speak. So he just kind of sits there with a knife and just kind of looks at you and that's it. Like he doesn't really do anything, but it was like, it was interesting to see how they did it in that form. And it was actually really good on how they, you know, portrayed it and like, you know, did the story and everything. But I guess really getting back to the point is like, you know, with Jason, it's one of those things that if you, again, you don't need to really know horror, but once you hopefully hear the name or once you actually hear the character and the you know, that little creepy, you know, like that creepy shit like that you'll know automatically. Like, you know, it's
if I ever heard that in real life, I'd be like, oh, fuck. Let's run. Get
the fuck out of here, bitch. You better grab all your shit as much as you can and get the fuck out of here, bitch.
Let's get the fuck out.
Anyways, I think a lot of these horror icons, you know, they're unique in their own right. You know, they've done something different in each one. You know, there's a reason why they've been around for so long. Now, granted, I'm not saying that all these movies are great because some of them, like you mentioned, they just suck. You know, they don't need to be, you know, really.
Well, it's really like, you know, like Friday the 13th. I mean, not Friday, Nightmare on Elm Street. Like they tried remaking it, and the remake of it sucks. Like it's just.
It's not the same effect.
The person they chose just wasn't. He didn't have the same type of energy, and it was a terrible movie the way they did it. And you really have to, you know, if you're going to try to do a remake, you know, you're allowed to have originality. You know, I'm not going to say like you can't have you know, you can't be original with an idea, but at least you need to take the fucking blue. Like we keep saying this all the time.
You're right, man. Keep going. I want to hear it.
The fucking blueprint.
Yep.
And apply it to your story. And make changes around your blueprint.
I think, you know what we should do?
Don't take the fucking blueprint and then throw it in the garbage and you go, let's make it gay and make it female and lame. Or do something like Pinhead. Like, let's just change everything about it. And hope that it, like, cross our fingers and hope it's good.
Matt, it sounds like you and I need to come up with a quote regarding the blueprint thing. I'm just saying, like, I think it needs to be.
You know, we do keep saying it, but it's the truth. Like, I actually do like the 2009 Friday the 13th, because I do think it did something different where, Jason was a little bit different because he actually did move fast and he actually did set traps, which I actually did like. But the movie itself wasn't great. And it just goes with the writing and it goes with how you develop the characters. But, the character itself, I mean, it's really iconic. And, you look at Freddy versus Jason, and I actually watched it the other day, and I absolutely love the movie. Like, it's such a crazy ass movie, and I love it.
Well, it's just, again, when you have two iconic characters together and you're doing it at the same time and you're just like, what do you want to do? Like, how do you want to make sure that they're portrayed correctly, and like how they would interact with each other? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's, to me, like I said, when you have two big horror icons like
it's just a shame that like Robert Englund, who plays Freddy, isn't, really wanting to do the character anymore.
Well, I mean,
so
you got to think about it too. He's been doing it since the 80s, so we're talking almost a 40-year stretch. So, and plus,
personally, what I would want to see if they ever do a Freddy is to do more of a prequel and showing Freddy like as a person, how he was as the Springwood slasher.
Oh,
and show kind of like how the parents actually went about
their day and
like killing him and
and
doing that, like showing that side of him and the early workings of him going into hell and becoming
who he became.
Because in the first Nightmare on Elm Street, he was already Freddy,
right?
And we only got pieces of that backstory, but we're kind of at that.
That window. Well, I was trying to finish
that window, and
you kept going. But anyways, guys, gals, whatever you want to be called, I understand that you've been listening to us for probably over an hour and a half now, if I'm taking a guess. But anyways, what Matt said earlier. Do the whole fist bump, man. Follow us. You say the rest because I don't actually remember the rest of that.
So give us that fist bump by following us, interacting with us, subscribing, and telling your friends.
Yes, I got to remember that. But
don't forget about the poll on YouTube. Go over there, vote for the next topic for our November 11th episode.
And yes, but until next time, boys and girls,
stay geeky.